What am I to do?
Welcome to He Said, She Said Razor Branding Podcast with Michael Russo and Jaci Russo. To learn more about how to improve your brand, visit brandRUSSO.com.
Michael, our guest today is Cathy Bertrand. She's with Rittal. And the conversations that I had with her before, and then now this conversation you and I had with her, it's everything I love about marketing because it's how to really use the tools the right way. She's a mathematician. And to go from mathematician to marketer means you're not just pretending, you're really doing the work to make sure it lines up and gets the results it needs to get.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as she started talking about mathematician, I literally zoned out. I was like, this is not going to go well. This is
You mean
one of
your
those.
7 years in Math 105 didn't prepare you for that conversation?
Well, yes, there's no reason to bring up that. I did get through it eventually. Yeah, but it's not a very lovely topic for me. But how she approached marketing was very interesting, very online with what we talk about regularly and what we do, really understanding the customer, understanding, there's so many channels out there. There's so many opportunities to get your message out. It's like, which one's the right one? And it always starts with who you're talking to.
Yeah.
Where do they get their information from? And then how do you resonate with them? How do you let them know what you do can help them with whatever they do? How do you enhance their lives with what your product or service? And I thought she was very insightful with that, and obviously doing a great job with what she's doing.
Well, she has way too much personality to be a mathematician, so I'm glad she came over to the marketing side. But I think people always talk about I'm results driven, I'm collaborative, I'm sales focused, I'm all these things. But she's one of the few people that really lives it and gives practical application of how she lives it. And that's what I loved about this conversation.
Yeah, very much so. And it's hard to do that because it's when you start talking about this stuff, it gets very heady. I mean, the amount of data points we have, and the vehicles that you have to contend with, and it's just a lot. It's a lot in today's world. I do miss the days when there was 3 media channels,
I
radio,
know.
TV, and print.
I know.
And the hard part, I mean, it's all hard to some extent. I mean, coming up with the marketing and all that, but some of the hardest part is the analytics part, is knowing where to go with your budget, knowing how to spend it the right way, because you can throw away money so quickly and not have anything in return for it.
Right. Right. Well, I think if you all stick around and listen to our interview with Cathy Bertrand, you will find some really good tips and some practical application that will help your marketing get better. Advice from a mathematician.
When the day is through.
Cathy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, we're excited to have you. You and I had the opportunity to speak previously, and I loved listening to you talk about your background because most of the marketing people that I interact with on a daily basis have a marketing background, which I think is kind of crazy now because you've decided to take the very noble path of coming from a math background. So talk me through how your math history kind of coalesces to you being a great marketer.
Sure, I would love to talk about that. So I have a math degree. I graduated from Kennesaw State University in Kennesaw, Georgia, with a math degree and a minor in economics. I thought that I was going to be an actuary. And then, so right out of college, I went and I was an actuarial assistant working with insurance examiners. And I found out really quickly that I had far too much personality and much more extroverted than a mathematician actuary person could be. So I, even though I had the, let's say, acumen and skills to be that data person, which I did for quite a while, but I realized pretty quickly that, being an actuary wasn't really my thing. But I did end up being an examiner, insurance examiner for both financial exams as well as market conduct exams back then. And the cool thing is, it's interesting with AI today, because when I graduated college, going from accounting hard papers to Excel, and back then it was Lotus, and how I was told that I was the crusader because, these guys, and they were older gentlemen, retired, but they were doing this for a living. They had these big papers and they would be literally filling them out as I was like able to put everything into the spreadsheet. And like within a matter of a couple hours, have everything done that they took three weeks to do. It's kind of, I feel like there's a very similar happening right now with AI because everyone is so terrified of it, but it's a tool, right? So to answer your question, to get back to that, sorry. I was an examiner for quite a while, and then I went to a recruiter for a recruiter to place me as a director of IT, IT security, that kind of thing, because I was in insurance. And the recruiter recruited me to be a recruiter. He's like, "You have far too much personality." So I did that for a little while, and I ended up supporting marketing, and I fell in love with it. And I really didn't know how I was going to transition to it. And then 2008, 2009, we all know where we were, and the bubble busted. And, I was a recruiter, so I didn't have a job anymore because we weren't hiring. So I literally, and the funny little story there is I turned 40. I lost my very first job and I got pregnant. So nothing like a little midlife crisis, actually. So, you have to find the humor in it all. But you know what? Where there is hardship, it allows other doors to open. And so I was unemployed for a couple of years there, had my son, beautiful son. And I had a friend who was in software, and she was like, "Cathy, what do you want to do?" And I was like, and I didn't know she was in software. I was like, I think I just want to sell some software. And she's like, "Well, you should come and work for us." And at that time it was Ventix. Um, so the job that they had available at that time, it was quite a few steps backwards, but it was called market development, and people know it as lead generation services. So I went in, and it was quite a few steps backwards, but I was already kind of mid-career, if you will. And because I had a very diverse background and I'm a people person, marketing is really about understanding people. And from let's say my background in mathematics, I feel that discipline taught me how to be very logical and problem solving. And when it comes to marketing, that's really what we are. We're there to take the ball from the zero to the end zone. And nothing's ever prescribed. You don't know. I wish we all had a crystal ball in marketing, because then it would make our jobs a lot easier. But marketing is really trying to be relevant to your customer base, being relevant to their problems, not so much that we have the best products, but what our best products help them do in their business. And I think it really boils down to being analytical.
Right. No, I agree. And I love the math background, which is why I started there, because to me, marketing gets this bad rap for being too creative. And so I think you really have this nice blend of an appreciation for the creativity of it, but also an acknowledgement of the science of it. And so marketing could be like a math problem if you just kind of approach it that way.
And you have to approach it that way, because at the end of the day, the leadership, they want values. They're all about sales and revenue and margins and, all of those things. So when it comes to such intangible things as impressions and engagements and scores like that, it doesn't translate as well as we would like it to be. So, and I do have to say that when I describe myself to a new organization, or if I'm presenting somewhere, I say that I am a sales marketer. And I say that because we can do all the best marketing creativity, trying to put it into the best places. But until you tie the placement and the creativity of that content with an actual opportunity to a closed one, until you make that correlation, that conversion, and tie that together, and tie it together in a very reportable, pragmatic way, you're just doing marketing and it could be fluff,
Yeah.
So I really find that having an analytical background, I really like to delve into the data. And I also like, at being in software, and I right now I'm in software as well as hardware, but in software, it's really about the level of conversions and what that entails, right? So it's very important to look at those, and we're always selling making better decisions with data-driven decisions, right? And I find as a marketer, that's the best place to use it.
Yes, no, I agree completely. And I think that when we use data, then it's easier for us to make the case that this investment is going to yield a positive ROI. And so it's not an expense.
Yeah, that's right. It's an investment, and
Correct.
and you have to, I mean, they, for our business, we invest in steel to be able to create our enclosures, right?
Correct.
It's an investment. You've got to spend money to make money. And marketing, sometimes they really get a bad rap because it's such an expenditure. It's an easy thing to cut. But when you cut it, you really are biting your nose in spite of your face, because you really do. If you have the best products in the world, but nobody knows who you are or what you do, like you're not going to be able to sell anything, so it's really about visibility. And without marketing, you're not going to have a whole lot of visibility.
Yeah, they used to have a guy here locally, and he sold tires, and his radio commercials were tires. Nobody likes them, but you got to have them. So you got to come. And it was I think advertising is a lot like that. That's my bad Cajun accent, by the way.
Yeah, that was
But
awful.
I know it was horrible.
It really was.
But he was very thick Cajun accent. But it's advertising and marketing is very similar to that. I think it's something that nobody loves unless they get to play in the middle of it. It's fun.
Yeah.
But then
Sure.
when on a line item sheet though, it's like, okay, I have to pay for this, and I need it, but I don't love it. I don't want it, and so there's always a resistance to that. To kind of going into it, And you're right,
Sure.
it is the first thing that usually cuts out. But Jackie has spoken about this a lot. It's like one of the last things you need to do, especially like I remember talking about the recession back then, and when the economy drops down, that's when you have to kind of go all in a little bit to keep your market share relevant.
Yes. Yes. I use the Coca-Cola example all the time. I mean, Coca-Cola is the number one drink out there in the entire world. And who do you see on the TVs and the billboards? And no matter where you go, you're seeing advertising for Coca-Cola. And it is a noisy landscape in drinks and beverages, more so today than ever. And, if they stop, they would lose revenue. They would lose their business, So I do make that analogy. And another thing that we're finding here at Rittal and Eplan is that we are a German-based founded company. And when you go over to Europe, everybody knows Rittal, everybody knows Eplan. So they don't have conditions like we have here in the US, where it's very noisy. There's a lot to weed through in order to really shine up and represent ourselves. So I'm ecstatic to be here with Eplan and Rittal, because Dr. Lowe, our owner, our one and only owner of the company, he knows that the investment is necessary. So we're actually been signed off on where he is investing a considerable amount of money in order for us. And like I say, is we want to present a tsunami into the market right now, because a little wave here and there is just not going to cut it. So my goal this year is for our competitors and our customers, and more importantly, our prospects and those that don't know who we are, start saying, Rittal, yeah, I know them. Yeah, that's that enclosure company, or that's that company that offers the end-to-end solution for electrical engineering. That needs to roll off their tongues and be front of mind. So I'm really excited about this opportunity and being able to really convey that messaging out there.
Yeah, and so when you get tired of being the best kept secret out there, you have to go bang the gong a little bit. I mean, what you do is good. You're a leader, but you got to let everybody know, and you got to sometimes get the megaphone and start to shout it a little bit. And I think
Right.
some companies have a hard time in doing that. I don't know if it's the B2B space, a modesty, or well, we don't do that, or there's a way to do it properly. But you have to sometimes get the word out.
You do. And I think with technology today, it's easier than ever to really focus and personalize your marketing to the people that you want to touch, right? Because, I say it all the time, we're not marketing to organizations and corporations and companies. We're marketing to people. right? And so who are the people, who are the personas that we need to get the message in front of? Because they're the ones who's going to care. And when they care and they're ready to listen, we have a lot to offer. I have to say, I love our products and I know we're superior, but nobody else knows about it. So it's an important place to be right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things, and to kind of jump in on the conversation you and Michael were just having, to me, that need to educate, it's not just a B2B problem. I think it's both sides of the coin, but it is predominantly a B2B problem. And, when people don't know who your company is, because not your company, but companies, because we don't have the budgets in the B2B space that our B2C friends do. We're not running Super Bowl ads. We don't have mass media communication, but we don't need to reach everybody. The B2B audience segment is so small. So what have you used? What kind of tips and tricks have you found that have helped you break through to the target audience you need to reach to be able to start to get that impression in them so they know Rittal and they know how Rittal can help them and start to make that awareness overcome?
Yes, so that is my number one priority right now as we speak. So the great news is we've got the resources to create the content, and we've got the budget to help us move the needle. So with that, so now I've got those two things. So how do I, like you said, find the right people to deliver the right message at the right time, right? So that is the marketing kind of everyone's problem in marketing is how do you do that? And I think, again, with today's day and age and the technologies out there, we're enlisting third parties to help us with retargeting, remarketing, and account-based marketing. But more importantly than account-based marketing, actually personalized marketing. So there is a firm that I've used, and the crazy thing is that they got me on my own personal Facebook page saying to me, and they didn't use my name, but they did use my former employer, and they said, help so and so. It's ABB, so help ABB find the right person at the right time. And it was being delivered to me as an advertisement in my feed, and I was like, how did they do that? And so I, and it was interesting too, because the ad that they had, it was like a Pepto-Bismol pink background with a cat looking at a sardine. So it was definitely something that was, there was no like relationship to the industry I was in, but I'll remember it forever, And I think that as a marketer, that's what we need to evoke with our target audiences, right? So not only do we have to put it into the front of the right person, but it's got to be engaging enough, interesting enough, funny enough for somebody to be like, what is this all about? And they were able to get my business, and I brought it to ABB, and now I'm bringing it here to Rittal and Eplan, and they're helping us. And the nice thing is we know who we call them our hunt accounts. So we know who they are. So we're working really closely with sales and leadership and looking at our current customers and then looking at our customers' competition, if you will, because if they're using us, why wouldn't their competition use us? And really formulating this and then looking at it from a persona perspective, because you're going to talk to a finance person or procurement person differently than you're going to talk to an electrical engineer, right? So as you can see, this is a very complex function, and you really need to be smart and think of things in a very dynamic way in order to get to the audience you're really looking for.
Right. So
I'm sorry, Jackie. I was just listening to that, and when we started this, you started talking about being a mathematician. I was planning on checking my emails and zoning out completely. But
locked in. I told you she was going to be a great guest.
But everything you've said since then has been like really resonating with us, because that's the kind of language we talk about. And I love hearing it from other people. I love you talking about emotional connections. And I think people get mixed up with that and say, well, emotion is happy or sad. No, it's how you feel about something. And if you're able to connect with them and resonate with them through what you're saying, then like you said, that one moment engaged with you and it was memorable enough to stick, and that's understanding who they're talking to, understanding who you're talking to, And when you do have that kind of understanding, then you can craft that messaging to resonate. So anyway, I just love hearing that. It kind of makes my heart happy.
Yeah. I often say that, especially to the salespeople, look, our customers have to buy from someone, make it you, you've got to be, and I'm Cathy, and I may be a little bit of a chatty Cathy. I'm very self-aware about that. But when you're looking to help somebody and you're approaching them with, I have something that's really going to help your business. It's going to help you scale. It's going to help your revenues. It's going to make you smarter and more productive. Those are the things that you want to listen for so that your conversation is relevant to them. And I often talk about the voice of the customer, right? It is so important that we talk their language, right? And this is what I love about doing this job right now, because that is really key at this time, is making sure that your approach is as relevant and engaging as it possibly can to those eyeballs, because there's only so many things that any eyeballs can see. So you better make it worthwhile.
And it's so simple. I mean, it really comes down to that. How does what I do help you? How does what I do enhance your life, make your life easier, make it more, whatever it may be? If you can get to that least common denominator, that usually works. Oh, well,
Yes.
That makes my life easier. I want that. How does that improve what I do? How does it make me look good? How does it, something less I have to worry about? If you can find a way to put your product or service into that category, it's usually going to be a win.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you think about the work that y'all are doing and that agency that was doing the targeting ads, I was wondering, were they using the LinkedIn matched audiences and the LinkedIn dynamic ads to populate?
So to be honest, they have a secret sauce that I haven't really uncovered, to be honest.
Sure. And you don't need to, this is not about revealing secret sauces.
I don't know what it is. So, and we're still we've only been using the service a year.
Okay.
And when I implemented it at ABB, I got the ball rolling and then I left. So I didn't see it come into fruition.
Right.
What I love about the tool, and I will call it a tool, but the service, is the back end and seeing the hits from companies that we are interested in, that my salespeople don't know the people that they're trying to connect with, So when you bring that rich insights, and I wouldn't call them leads, because just because someone's perusing your website or your landing pages or reacting to your ads, it doesn't mean that they're ready to buy, or maybe not even ready for a call. But the wonderful thing is, on an individual basis, how many times they're engaging with you. So there's a threshold that we can be like, you know what, you want to know about this. Well, now you really want to know about this, so that's kind of that's the approach we're using right now.
I love that. Well, I think anytime that you can personalize it, anytime you can make somebody feel special because their name, their company, but not in a hokey way that makes it feel mass produced, but in an actual personalized way, that's going to go a long way to really connecting with somebody.
It really is. And it's so interesting because I don't know about you, but like when you're scrolling and kind of doing your thing and somebody, is speaking directly to you, that goes a long way, and the level of engagement isn't just a ping. It really is a long lasting thing. So,
Right.
For sure.
No, absolutely. So you not only have made the transition from mathematician to marketer, which I love the way that's connected for you. You've also done not just domestic marketing, but global marketing. So what was it like being in Finland for 2 years running global marketing? And how's the transition back to the States been for you?
Yeah, that's a really great questions. So when I joined ABB back in 2011, I knew the reason I was so excited about it was because they were an international company. And there was something inside me that said, wouldn't it be nice to be able to go and work abroad someday? Right. Yeah. And, and I'm a firm believer that you can really manifest things. And this was one of those things after when I was there 13 years. So after 11 years, here it was presented to me. Now, did I ever pick Finland? No, but I have to say Finland is a phenomenal country, the safest country, and they're voted the happiest people on earth. Where you stand with the Finns, that's for sure, from a business perspective, and whether this is being in Finland or this just being with an international industrial automation company, when I went over there to lead marketing, global marketing, they were predominantly, if not altogether, a product marketing organization. And what I mean by that is I actually, when I went over there, was reporting into the senior executive of product, global product, right? And right off the bat, I was like, look, if you really want to change your trajectory of revenue and opportunities and expand and grow your business anywhere in the world, you really need to get out of product and start looking at things. I mean, don't get me wrong, we need product marketing. I'm not saying we don't need the catalog and the brochures and the specifications. Yes, we need all of that. But this is where I feel I really spread my wings on the personalized segment industry marketing, because over there I was selling drives. Here I'm selling enclosures and software. So no matter what products you're selling into a B2B, you're also selling them into industries. So, and the industries we touch, and I've been like this since I joined this industrial automation world, goes from food and beverage, and even in food and beverage, because you're talking about either poultry and meat processing to chocolate and confectionery and bakery. So there's so many different facets of the industries. Yes, they have manufacturing and they have processes of their own. They all need a PLC, right? But what is different is their concerns and their needs, and they may call them different things when you go to different industries. So I felt it was very, very important to speak the language of our customers. And so I was able to look at our marketing organization and restructure so that it was much more aligned with the sales and the growth strategy versus the product and the roadmap strategy. There is an intersection, and having that foundation of product and product marketing is important, but really having the storytellers and the writers and the public relations people that connect into what that strategy is and that growth strategy is, that is where you're articulating and conveying what really matters to your customer, and not from a features, benefits and features kind of perspective. Feeds and speeds, I guess is what they call it. It's outside of that. It's really resonating with your audience.
I love that. I love that. And so as you flipped back to the US now, you come with this wealth of worldly experience. How do you think it's given you kind of an insight or an inside track or advantage that you're able to kind of take advantage of now?
So I think that, again, we're all people, and whether they're an international HQ headquartered entity like Finland was for drive products for ABB,
Right.
or it's Germany here for Rittal and Eplan, we're all people trying to figure it out. And if we really want to be the pioneers, we have to be brave and courageous to be able to do things that have never been done before. And I don't think whether we're on, either side of the pond, that really changes, because I think humans are humans. What I find what I learned a lot from being away from the US is really how populated and how diverse our country is, and that, we're consumers much more so than any other countries in the world, right? And when you have this mass complexities and markets, to really understand what your market size is and who your true competitors are, and comparing apples with apples, I think it's a lot more of a challenge here than it is, because we're the freedom, we're the country of freedom. So freedom of choice and freedom of so many, where over there, they're very, especially when you think about Germany and all of the Renaissance countries, and they're rooted in history and legacy, and they're not the new world. We are the new world, and that translates into what we sell. And it is a lot easier to sell a legacy product over there than it is here. Does that make any sense?
No, it makes perfect sense. And it kind of ties in nicely to the next sort of set of questions I wanted to talk about, which is how you balance your in-house team, your freelancers, your agency partners, because you're kind of building an in-house agency. So where's your process with that? Because I think that ties in with your approach.
Yeah. And to be honest, it's all about what is the strategy? What's
exactly.
Because if you're not aligned with that growth strategy, how many marketers do we know that are over here doing their own little thing because this is what they put on their plan back last June, and they're going with the sustainability and the circularity and the important trendy things that are important. But when you're dealing with engineering solutions and you're talking with engineers, yes, it is, I think, the C-suite and maybe that upper management that really cares about the sustainability and the quality and the reliability and all of those, let's say, trendy things. But if you can't translate that down to what it means from a revenue and a growth perspective, you're losing something. So I start with the growth, with what is our strategy, and then from there I look at how is our business segmented. And what I've done is I call them the quarterbacks. So I've hired quarterbacks to own a piece of the business, right? And align with, we've got business units here. So align with the business units. And then not only do I have that, I have fundamental product marketing, right? So everything to do with our products, we stand, and that's our fundamentals. But then when it comes to really content and promotion, it's speaking the voice of the customer. And there, then I hire people that are curious and researchers and love to get other perspectives, because when you can get other perspectives and you bring all of that content together and you create something, it then is going to be much more relevant to a broader, segment and broader people than trying to like throw something at the wall and hope something sticks, right? So being very thoughtful and methodical about what you're trying to convey, and doing it so that anyone who reads your content or engages with you, they learn something and they take something away that's memorable and lasting.
That's awesome. I love that approach. And I think you're right, though, because we all know those marketers. And so the way you're approaching it, though, I think it really kind of gives you that opportunity to tie in the strategy with the emotional engagement, which is going to get the awareness, and kind of make it a full circle.
Yes, it's got to be that way, in my opinion, because,
Okay.
I'm here to win. I mean, I think we all like to win, but, it's like, I don't want to just do work for the sake of doing work.
No.
If we're not moving the needle, we're not doing our jobs, and we need to pivot, and we need to be speedy and agile. And, if something's, and that's a thing with marketing. And this is something where, unlike the math world where things are pretty precise and you could figure out the problem and you get an answer, you plug it back in. Marketing isn't like that, because you could have done a jammin' marketing campaign, let's say, that really drove great results, and a year later tried the same exact thing and it doesn't go anywhere. Yeah. So you got to have tough skin, and you gotta be open to pivoting, and being analytical really helps that, because when you could look at the data and not only read the data and say, oh, well, this is going up or down, but, and this is one of the things that I say to my quarterbacks is, when you look at that data, I don't want you to just present the data in a graph. I want you to tell me, what is this data telling you? And what is your recommendation based on this data for us to do? Because that is really where the rubber meets the road, and we can get some more work done and maybe go down a different road or do a different approach.
No,
I think a lot of times too, you fall in a category of, I'm gonna outspin you, or I'm gonna outsmart you. and a lot of times the outspend is not an option. Not everybody has those kind of pockets or wants to invest in that. Because you can filter, you can flood the airwaves, you can own certain segments or media channels if you want to spend the money. Or you can, like you said, be more precise, know your audience, be really targeted, and then have messaging and content that really resonates with that audience. And then you can find those channels, use that data for those resources and find out what's going to resonate. What do they need? How do I fit that need with what I'm providing,
Yeah. Michael, you just said it perfectly. I don't know if you're reiterating what I've said or tried to convey, but you really did. And I thank you for that because, I believe this, and this is how, these last 20 years of my life has really led me to this. Executing is a big deal. And I think that is where, as a marketer, the struggle is real because you know what you have to do. It's pretty prescribed, but a matter of really, are we ready? When do we flip that switch, right? And not only are our customers or potential customers ready, but is our internal sales organization ready? And that I find is a major responsibility of a strong marketing team. So whether we have sales enablement in our queue or not, in our function or not, it is our responsibility to ready the sales organization, and not just the sales organization, but our distributors who sell on our behalf. We need to ready them for the information that's going to flood out into the ecosystem, right? And be able to be prepared to take that to that next level of, bringing it into an opportunity, right? And that is where when you have that partnership with sales, it's a baton toss. I mean, it truly is a handoff. And if you don't have it clearly defined as to who is doing what and how you take every little lead that comes in and you either qualify it or disqualify it, that needs to be done because how many systems out there and how many companies out there have leads galore, but they're not making anything out of them, or they're not reacting to them in a timely manner. And that is a big piece. Marketing is such a vested interest in that baton toss. And it goes further. I mean, so many marketers just want to cut it off. Well, I've done my job, right? That sales is a responsibility. I don't stop there. I am much more of a babysitter, and I hate to say it, but if they don't do something with it, everything we've done as a team fails. I don't want to fail. I want to win. So it's really, really important that we follow through and look at these things and then look backwards and say, oh, maybe we should have done this or could have done this. And then we do it again and tweak it.
Yep. I would add to that because you're right. I know we've interviewed marketers who are perfectly happy in their silo. And so when we work with a company, we go and have conversations with those customers with, sales being involved. Sales gives us who to talk to. Sales even sometimes says, hey, these people are going to reach out. But having those conversations allows us to hear things that people inside the company are going to miss.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to ask questions that we're not scared of the answers,
Right. Yeah.
And so then we can use their language, the language of the customer, to reach other customers.
That's right.
It is such a game changer. And I think so many companies, so many marketers at so many companies are content to just say, this is marketing silo and this is all I'm doing.
Yeah.
Well, and you had mentioned earlier, Cathy, I don't know if you said if I repeated what you were saying, that's kind of our secret sauce in a lot of ways. We'll go in and present something like Jackie says, and we've done all this research and we talk to everybody internally, externally, and then we basically move some things around, make it sound a little prettier, but we hold it back up to them and say, and they're like, "Oh my God, that's so you get us. How did you figure that out?" We're like, you told us. Like it was all there the whole time. You just weren't listening, or you weren't able to listen internally, But when you ask those questions, the answers come pretty easily. It's not as hard as there's no magic button there, or now how you execute it creatively is a little bit different, but the information's out there. You just have to ask the right questions and be, like I said, Jackie said, be unafraid of the answers that you get back, and then deal with them as they come,
Yep. Yeah. And because that's the other thing too, is like, with my team, I'm like, let's go, because there's nothing that's holding us back. And, and I always say, no one's dying. It's not rocket science. You just have to do. It may not be the best thing out there in the world, but who has the best thing out there in the world? I mean, I'd rather be present than invisible, so we've got to get that out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Cathy, this is perfect. I want to wrap up on one last little point that you and I talked about that I think is a kind of a sum of this whole thing. So when we spoke previously, when we first met, you said, and I love the way you said it, you were like, LinkedIn, 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 that it's not a strategy. And I was like, you're right. It cannot just be that tactic standalone by itself. So, as you close the door on this conversation, talk us through how you keep a balanced approach to the strategic look at tactics and how you don't lean too far into one or the other, but you make sure you get equal time where they need it.
Well, that's the thing. So I often say, back in the, let's say, 80s and 90s, you would buy your Wall Street Journal, you'd put it under your arm, you'd go to your office and you'd open the Wall Street Journal or whatever paper it is. But it was a pretty single source, and everybody was using the same source. We consume, as humans, we consume information. There are zillions, too many of outlets out there for anybody to learn about anything, right? So that's what I take to the core, right? So if we just do LinkedIn, we're only going to get to the people that use LinkedIn. And there are probably just as many, if not more, who are not using LinkedIn, as surprising as that may be. So my whole approach to my team is, how do we diversify our outreach? Right. So, yeah. And, because some people will say, well, email is dead. And, I heard that white papers were dead, but then we did a customer survey and white papers, they want more white papers, so like, what is this magic mix of, to be able to really get yourself out there in all these facets? And I think it really is about diversifying, and LinkedIn is not diversifying. LinkedIn is great. We need to use it, just like email. It's great. We got to use it. But, it's fishing in our own ponds. What we need to do is we need to engage in publications and honestly, it's one of my favorite questions to ask customers is, where do you go to consume your information?
Right.
And I think as the, our aging population and people are retiring and kind of that old school is moving on, these people that are coming into the workforce, they're used to getting immediate answers. And with SEO and AEO and even LLM, I mean, 2 years ago, we didn't know what LLM was, we didn't, and now it is so like focused. So making sure that you do the hygiene behind your systems and your keywords, and making sure you're involved with the Google Analytics, and and you could look at it like, does Google own everything? Does Google have a monopoly? I heard this crazy, not crazy, but interesting podcast about really the power of Google, and competing with Google. No matter who you are, you're competing with Google. So you just have to diversify. You can't put all your eggs in a basket. You need to diversify.
Yeah, no, I could not agree more. And that's the perfect way to wrap this up. Cathy, thank you so much for your time and your expertise and your knowledge and wisdom. This was just chef's kiss.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure. I do love to talk my craft. So thank you for having me.
And I love to listen to it because I learn something every time.
When the day is